A frustrating night on probably a number of fronts. Is that a fair summation or?
Fair summation.
But what was the difference tonight?
You can go in many different directions. Hasn't been a great week for the league. We watched Wellington, West Sydney last week on a really substandard pitch, and I think we did our best to match that tonight and provide a surface that isn't conducive to a very good game of football. So,
Warren Moon said it wasn't up to A-League standard. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Made my point fairly clear yesterday after seeing it. So nothing changed, huh? Players were slipping, balls not moving, even opportunities in the box, balls are bobbling. So in the end, Newcastle deserves better. We deserve better. The league deserves better. And unfortunately, like I said, it's not the only reason, but it's a fairly good reason if you don't provide a good pitch that you won't see a very good game.
Do you get the CEO to talk to the stadium about that, or do they dialogue with the league, or how do you prevent it from sort of happening again?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Jimmy. I raised my concerns about it yesterday. So I coach a team and, can't do everything.
Football-wise, credit to Brisbane. They obviously had a plan to stay very compact and block off the passing lanes, and they managed to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. They played well. They stuck to a game which was to defend quite deep, and and it's when you're playing against teams that are defending deep, you got two problems. One is on transition. There's some really good opportunities for them. They look strong on transition. I think set pieces they look strong as well. Some really good delivery, and then if you're trying to break down a team that's sitting deep, you need to move the ball quickly. And clearly that wasn't possible.
You've got another game on Wednesday night now. The legs are probably going to be heavy after playing on that sort of pitch as well. Is someone like Reno Piscopo a chance to be right, or you look at bringing some changes in to create a spark or to balance up the workload?
Yeah, I think he's a possibility to come back into the team. Obviously, he's had just a little niggle over the last couple of games, but with a short turnaround, it's hard to get players who are on the fringe, also ready to play into a match within a 5-day turnaround. So I think he'll come into calculation. He trained the last session. There's a couple others, that will come into the frame as well.
Was sort of Becker typified the frustration that all the players found out there? He couldn't really get into the game.
Yeah, Becker's a highly technical player, so in the end he's going to be frustrated because he wants the ball played into him, but also the players behind him need to get into certain body positions just to receive, to play forward and not look down at the ground to see how the ball's going to move before they pass the ball. So he's frustrated. I'm sure some others are, but in the end we still lost that game. I think in the end, if it's a game that it's still based on a second phase of a set piece. So, it's something that still can be avoided irrespective of the pitch as well. So we can't just sit here and say that's the only reason.
Well, you've probably nearly snatched one at the end, and Gus has hit the post in the first half. So, but outside of those two, there wasn't many chances in between. And that's all part of what you've explained, I suppose. But you go to Central Coast, and they would have seen what you did 7 days ago. Do you have to change much between now and Wednesday?
Oh, not necessarily. I think in the end, still, they got a game tomorrow night, so they got their own challenges at the moment. Having lost the last couple of games, so I think they'll be focused on tomorrow night and not, what Wednesday looks like already. And we'll have an opportunity, an extra day to prepare and hopefully use it well and see what what sort of comes out of tonight as well. Once we've cleared medically everyone.
Would you foresee many changes for Wednesday? Just purely
I think there's a chance to make a couple of changes, but it's still early. Like I said, the game's just finished now, so we'll assess it. We'll get back on the field. There's a group that will train in the morning tomorrow as well, and they got some possibilities from that group as well.
Yeah, and with half time, with that howling wind behind you in the second half, I probably thought you were going to be able to pin them in, but that didn't eventuate. Was that more?
Yeah. I think the reason is because we actually had most of the ball. It's just what you're doing with it. So in the end, when you've got over 65, close to 70% of the ball, you're pressing for 30% of that, or you're transitioning. So that's part of it, and we knew we could get it back fairly quickly. But it's important what you do with it and how you move it, and we weren't good enough with it.
So is that when you just wipe away? Because I mean, last year you said, and even this week, recent weeks, you said we've got to go back up a win after a win after a win. That's something we haven't been able to do. Is pitch aside, do you just wipe today because of the pitch, or?
Well, we have been able to do that because the first 2 games of the season were back to back, straight off the bounce. Started again, obviously our restart well, and tonight's disappointing for us, but that's part of the challenges of professional sport. Yeah, it's not that simple, and like I said, it's an opportunity to show a bit of resilience, a bit of a bit of grit in terms of how we respond to that.
And no injuries or anything tonight from what I can see.
Not sure yet. There's a couple that are pretty sore. So
I mean, Jason Hoffman, not the ideal night for him, but as you said, there'll be plenty of other opportunities for you.
Yeah.
There's a couple more milestones coming up for him. That he might be able to turn that around and get a win on a milestone.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed that we couldn't give him the performance and the result that someone like Jason and his family deserve. We made a big point about that, and it doesn't take away what he's achieved. First of all, it's someone that. He's represented this city, this club so well, and he's a very valued member of our team and our community. So, just congratulations to him, but just disappointed that we can't give him that result that also would just be probably the icing on the cake for him, because he's all about the team in the end and not about personal accolades.
You talk about making changes and sort of bring people back in up some heavy legs. Are we going to see McGarry come back into the squad? Hasn't featured in the last 2 weeks after the restart.
Yeah, there's a possibility. Jimmy's a possibility as well, and obviously, like I said, we defended quite well overall. Like we had to block quite a bit in the box and in closer areas, but it's a possibility. He's got to train well and put himself in a position to be called upon.
You talk about you defending quite well. It's always disappointing to concede sort of goals to sort of second efforts and whatnot. But outside of that, how do you think Duncan played today? Had a lot of really good saves apart from that one sort of slip up there.
Look, I think Jack, didn't. There's a lot of shots, but were they, did he have to pull off saves like the last minute save that was in the game that kept him in the game? Not necessarily. So I thought he, acquitted himself well. Came off his line well. Dealt with a lot of set pieces. There was a lot of set pieces that we had to deal with, and overall, I think he's had a sound game.
You prepared for the set pieces. That's where they scored most of their goals this season. So is that something that the team were aware of and they knew that's what they had to defend?
Yeah, because it's the first time we've conceded this season off a second phase, even let alone a first. So we've actually been very strong in that area, but it just takes one opportunity and you switch off on the second phase, and second phase is probably harder to defend than the first phase because it's not as planned. So like I said, we'll review it and need to be better, because in the end, that's still 3 points lost on a set piece.
I think I mentioned it to Warren Moon. Sorry, I should have mentioned it earlier. The protest by the fans leaving after the 20th minute. Obviously, the game's about the fans, but as players and as a coach, was that disappointing, or was it something that I guess they're entitled to voice their approval or disapproval to league decisions?
No, I can respect that. There's fans are the lifeblood of the league at the end of the day. So, I would have liked to see more people here tonight. I thought, on the back of our other couple games that we've been here, we've been around 7,000, and tonight we ended up with 5 after a good win in an F3 derby. So that's probably disappointing. But I think overall, the league this week, it's been a tough week for the league. So I respect our supporters a lot, and can understand why they've made their decision. But ultimately, probably the players get hurt by that decision as well, because we need our active support, and that would have been important tonight for us to have them singing all game and obviously not go so quiet. So it did feel a bit, it was a bit quiet out there tonight. But overall, like I said, I respect that.
Do you think sort of the lower attendance and the lack of active support, do you think that's sort of that lower attendance is to do with the APL decision, and also after the 20th minute, do you think it was sort of deflating for the players, especially through that second half when they were struggling to not have that active support there?
I think, supporters, when they're on song, help the players for sure. But overall, we'd spoken about that prior to the game. We'd covered that yesterday, and it was about, focusing on what we control on the field, and what we control is our performance, irrespective of how many people are in the stadium. So, it's like I said, it will definitely be something that helps them. But in saying that, it's still not an excuse to not come away with something from this game.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thanks.